Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from St. Vincent, All Born Screaming. I'm not sure where the shine started slipping from St. Vincent. I think some will argue it's mass seduction, which I understand, but I kinda disagree because that album's best pop moments have actually really held up. But when I tried so hard to be charitable to Daddy's Home back in 2021, where there are these waves of critical acclaim that kind of felt completely off balance, look, I've really come around to dislike that album. I overpraised it at the time, and I don't think I'm alone there. Partially for Jack Antonoff mishandling the production, but especially in the writing, where the themes and the execution, they felt relatively well researched, but in service of a really wonky, self-serving thesis. So I had lower expectations than most for this album. The critical acclaim has once again felt over the top, where St. Vincent was taking over all the production duties and recruiting Justin Meldal Johnson for engineering. And the results? Okay, look. It's better than Daddy's Home, and on paper, an album like this could really work for me, leaning back towards the darker, roiling indie rock that characterized her peak years with Strange Mercy and the self-titled album, paired with a more refined sense of groove that have come from her last two projects that might even tilt towards industrial, less driven for alienation than a looser, more accessible swagger to rock out. Or at least that's what the singles seem to be implying, and what in interviews St. Vincent seemed to be seeking, sick of those trying to define and control her, and exasperated with trying to sell authenticity, stepping away from all the artifice and the deflective irony and the masks for something that feels more authentic to her, regardless of how it turns out for everyone else, with the first half all being about confronting some brutal loss, both internal and external, and the latter half being, well, we gotta get through this somehow, maybe look on the bright side, finding transcendence amidst the living hell. Now, those are themes I know and I find resonant. And I know that because it's been the emotional subtext behind St. Vincent's best albums, where in contrast, All Born Screaming is a lot less impressive in the execution, and part of it is the songwriting. I don't know what the hell happened the past 6 or so years, but there used to be this visceral, tactile grit to St. Vincent's best writing, and it's just gone now. And it's all the more glaring when this album is trying to evoke that shock, and it's been replaced by language that feels like it's holding the audience at arm's length, trying to grasp a more personal edge that used to come across a lot more naturally. Now, a lot of folks have highlighted the somewhat awkward tribute to Sophie on Sweetest Fruit, which, you know what, I was not against with the context the song is all about young queer people who are seeking transcendence going out on a limb, as she later references Daniel Sotomayor, who died of AIDS in the second verse. But I don't know, the possessive pronouns of calling them my is a really awkward choice, to say the least, and it's yet not the only time it happens. On The Power's Out, describing an apocalyptic scenario in New York City, the one person who dies in the song is a queer person who commits suicide, with a line to "remember me smiling," and that just feels weirdly tacky and detached, playing into some really dated tropes around queer representation in media. And then there's more than a few moments where she references being watched and scrutinized, dare I even say critiqued, like on the outros of Hell Is Near and Reckless, or the entirety of Broken Man or Big Time Nothing. The last of which, yes, I know it's from the perspective of her own depression, that voice in her head that she knows is not supposed to make sense, but for an album all about getting to the most raw moments, at least in the first half, there's this frustrated, cagey side to the writing, and it feels off to me. Kind of ironic given that Taylor Swift also had a lot of that on her newest album, and I liked it a lot more there, where Swift threw open the floodgates for better and worse, seeing all the cringe come forth. St. Vincent just clams up. The impact feels blunted. It doesn't go for broke in ways that, quite frankly, I know she can. And some of that, unfortunately, might be the fault of her production, where, look, I can appreciate her taking a larger role and getting highly acclaimed drummers like Dave Grohl, Josh Freese, and Mark Guiliana to back her up on groove, and it leaves me thinking the tunes, the melodies, might be the actual problem here, where the weirder edges in the keys or the guitars, a producer like John Congleton would accentuate, take an interest interesting directions. Whereas here they feel squelchy and faded and underpowered, with a lot of grainy highs clipping the edges, with her voice pushed a little deeper into the mix, and that doesn't flatter her presence or vocal timbre. Now, there are moments that get close to really working. Flea feeling a little more self-contained in its wonky sleaze. It almost stuck the landing before we get this warbling 70s prog rock bridge that I wish I liked more. Then you get the bassy Nine Inch Nails-esque swagger to Big Time Nothing. It tries to infuse some synth funk, and it feels like something Prince would have nailed, and honestly St. Vincent gets close. Or all the sweaty horns over the noir touches on Violent Times has had a lot of folks call it a Bond song, and quite frankly I hear it. It's really good. Hell, I certainly prefer those to the goopy squonk of Sweetest Fruit, which squanders a pretty terrific galloping groove, or the drippy cod reggae of So Many Planets, which also features a great guitar solo I wish could just get out from under all the effects Justin Meldal Johnson dumps on top of it, or the dippy rollick of the title track, which features support from Kate LeBon that builds into a pretty impressive outro, but I'm just not sure it's enough. The final third of this album just really tanks it for me. What a disappointment. In short, you know, there's a tangible frustration that St. Vincent has shown in the press run around this album selling authenticity. Where it can all feel like bullshit, she knows it, and she's saying that you should be willing to accept the artist where they are at. And I agree, but with All Born Screaming, it feels like I'm getting a bait and switch, where minus the pedestal she had from Actor to Strange Mercy to self-titled to Mass Seduction, not only do I feel like the punches are being pulled, and I'm told they're not, the flaws and missteps feel way more glaring. I'm reminded a lot of Sleater Kinney's album Little Rope from earlier this year, where on paper I can buy into it, but the execution feels mishandled and weirdly listless. It's lacking the vibrant flair of her best, and I should know I went back to check out those albums. A lot of them are so great. I don't know, it's decent. It's not her worst, but if we're all born screaming, I think I know where she may have stopped. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, and subscribe. Yes, I know St. Vincent fans are not going to be happy with me with this one. Believe me, I want to like this. St. Vincent's made some of my favorite albums of the 2010s, and I don't know what the hell is happening in the 2020s, because this is not working for me, and the avalanche of critical acclaim just feels even more discombobulating, because I know what they're trying to go for and look for, and I am not hearing it, especially compared with what she's done in her best. But beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get involved and help and support the channel, or just yell at me at my Discord, or hell, get albums on my schedule going forward, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated. Tough times, I understand, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.